going to industrial or commercial zones. Well, I guess I would frame it like this. What do the citizens of the township want? You know, what is reasonable? Certainly, in Michigan, we have solar on land that's zoned industrial and commercial. But, I mean, I don't know that if you have brownfields here, that, you know, that'd be a great site or a landfill. You know, there are other places that you can look and put solar where it'd be appropriate. I don't know. That's a decision, I guess, that a township would have to make is what they consider to be reasonable. So.
Next question, will any permanent local jobs be created? As far as permanent, obviously, and I think I said this earlier, the scope of the project is not that far along yet, so they can't really speak to this. I did some looking, so it's the one that you visited today, the one, the company that built it put out an ad. They had 400 jobs to build it. So, and again, it's twice or three times as big as what we're looking at in Keene Township, but they employ 400 people to build this for 2 years or something like that. So if you want to add to that.
Yeah, so I did ask that question because that's something that's really, that concerns me. So there's a lot of economy that goes on when these solar projects are put in because of, you know, building it, hiring people. They're pretty much, these crews are local people that get hired. After they leave, though, that's the issue. So I asked Assembly, or asked Ranger Power how many people they employ on a permanent basis, and they said 5. And I asked them if they're local, and then they said yes, they all live in that area, so they're taxpayers, and they do all the maintenance and everything for Ranger Power there. We asked the same question of the wind developer, who actually was DTE, that's who we met with. And they said that there are 4 that work full-time, but they don't live in the county. They live in other areas and they drive in. So the opportunity, you know, the opportunities are there for this 1,200-acre site. I don't know who actually does the maintenance, but whether they, you know, the mowing, I should say. But that would be an opportunity if this solar project decides that they want to mow instead of graze or you know, something else, that they could hire a local company who could actually do the mowing for them. So let me give you an idea of what the mowing regime looks like. So in the first year, they're mowed about 3 times. The second and third year is about twice, and then going beyond that, the plants are sufficiently established that they're mowed, you know, once a year.
Okay, next question on the list is what are the lease agreements? So that is not anything to do with the township. I had quite a few questions that ask about lease agreements. Those are between the landowners and the company. We don't see any of that, and I don't think we ever will. So that kind of helps. I hope that answers that. So next question had to do with this kind of transitioning into some of the township ordinance stuff. How many residents get the shopper's guide? Why was that chosen as a notification method? So I went to the shopper's guide website today. It's our paper of choice. It's actually the paper of choice for all the townships in Ionia County. If you pay enough attention, you see that every township advertises in it when it comes to their notices and meetings. So according to their website, they have 12,397 guaranteed deliveries. Plus they also have like in front of the gas stations or party stores, they have the free one. that, you know, you just come and grab it and you look through it. So the reason we use that, so the other alternative is the Sentinel standard, and I think they're down to 3 days a week. And I don't even know. I know they're down. They used to do a Saturday flyer for everybody, but that's gone. So one, we were following past practices. Two, the Iowa Sentinel standard is better circulated, or no, the Shopper's Guide is better circulated than the Iowa Sentinel standard. So that's kind of why we went to that. Oh, all right, go ahead.
So I have read quite a few lease agreements. I can tell you what's in them. Basically, the solar company and the individual who is providing the land enter into an agreement that allows the solar company to do exploratory work. So we talked a little bit about the environmental analysis here a couple questions ago. The solar developer will do their own environmental analysis. They'll look at soil types. They'll look at the lay of the land. There's a lot of the first cut generally is for a solar developer is how close they are to a power substation, because I got to have a place to connect to the grid. And what we're finding, what the rule of thumb used to be within a mile or two of a power station, a substation. I'm sorry. We learned today, though, that that's not the case anymore. It's there's a lot of factors that go into it. You could a solar project or wind project could be up to 14 miles away where the substation is. So the lease agreement spells out, the discovery process, and then if they discover that, this is a great site for solar development, then they enter into a more formal agreement, which basically allows the farmer to continue to crop that land. But if for further due diligence, if the solar company sees that they want to move ahead with the next step and they have to take some of that land out and they're going to destroy crops, then the agreement is that they pay, there's a restitution there for the crops that were destroyed to the farmer. So the farmer's not losing any money. And then the third step is, after the due diligence, then is a formal agreement where the solar developer says, I want to enter into a legal formal agreement to lease this land for 25 years. Lease payments range in the state. The lowest that I have heard is $500 an acre. The highest that I've heard is $1,200. State average is around $8. So it's not a process that is done overnight. The solar companies do their due diligence, but what I have learned as I work with farmers is that the solar developers keep them informed on what's going on. There's pretty good communication that occurs there. So.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right, next page. Okay, question is, and there's a couple of them I'll kind of add up to. How many acres would a 100 megawatt solar farm need? So the rule of thumb is 5 acres of panels. So you're looking at 500. I think somebody pointed out that when we advertised this, we had 1 megawatt. That was a typo. So, oops. So we tried to correct that as best we could. So once we found out about it. So anyway, so yeah. So you're looking at roughly 500 acres of panels. Again, rule of thumb, but from what I've read, it seems to be pretty consistent. Will residents who live next to solar farms be required to disclose it on a real estate listing? If not, what about if it has not been built? So that was a good question. I actually contacted a realtor, and he sent me a seller's disclosure statement. And so I have it here in my hand, and he underlined something that he thought I should say. So farm or farm operations in the vicinity or proximity to a landfill, airport, or shooting range. So the only thing that a according to the real estate guy, is you just have to disclose that you're next to, or close to a farm. And there's nothing in the disclosure thing that talks about solar at all, zero. So, I'm not sure if that's gonna change, but, this, seller's disclosure statement, that's what he told me, so.
I want to take just a little bit of a slant off of that related. However, one of the things that we hear quite frequently is that solar projects affect property values. And it just so happened as we were driving out of the solar project there, as we were coming back to DeWitt, it was pointed out to us that there was a home that had been on the market, and it was directly across the street. They could look out their picture window and they would see solar arrays out their front picture window. The asking price was $179,000. We went on Zillow and looked it up. $179,000. They closed and sold the house at $215,000. So again, recognize that, you know, it's all situational, but at least we have an example here of a home. It was a very nice home as we drove by, that did not lose value because it was next to a solar array or a solar farm.
So while we're on that subject, we'll jump down a second from the bottom. How does commercial solar farms affect land values of nearby properties? Okay, and again, I like the way that he answered it. So I did some research. There's a study by a realtor, and again, I want to point this out too. I tried to get as much stuff and document it, so at the end I got some references. If somebody got questions about what I said or where I found it, I should be able to give you that information or where you can find it. So I tried to just make a document. So anyway, they come to, it's since 2018. I'm just going to skip back to the summary findings, and I'm just going to read it, okay? So and this is out of Illinois, okay, so not Michigan, but it's the best I could find. So based upon our examination, research, and analysis of the existing solar farm uses, the surrounding areas, and the extensive market database, we have concluded that no consistent negative impact has occurred to adjacent properties that could be attributed to proximity of the adjacent solar farm. So with regard to unit sale prices and other market influences. This conclusion has been confirmed by numerous county assessors who have also investigated this use's potential impact. So again, I know, I would say out of all the questions that I've gotten, the property value one is I understand, and you know, it's for a lot of people that's your biggest investment, and I understand completely why you would be concerned. So there's no guarantees in this world. I'm not going to say that if that's in your case, it's going to go up or down or whatever. But what we're seeing is not the big negative I think that people are trying to paint. So.
The University of Michigan has spent the last year studying this issue, and they have a report that will be released here any time now that looks at the impact of solar projects on property values. So I think it'll be released through the U of M's Graham Institute of Sustainability, I think is what they call themselves. But you know, I'm sure it'll be released, and there'll be some there'll be some articles that will be circulated around.
Okay, I'm going to jump back up. How would commercial solar farms affect our property taxes? It shouldn't. So your property values are your property values. They're based on calculations. It doesn't matter what's next door. If it's a barn or a house or a factory, your property values are still what your property values are. So next question, who will receive the renewable energy credit that comes with the solar farm? So, that is not a property tax credit, that is income tax credit, and it's the owner of the facility, the owner of the solar farm. So not the landowner, because they're leasing it out, it would be the, consumers, or DTE, or Inverter, somebody like that. Okay, next question, are there lights in use at night at solar farms? And what does Inverter Energy do to prevent light pollution? So, my understanding is they have to do a glare study, and that's part of their, the stuff that they have to hand in when they apply for all this. I think that's through the state of Michigan. Part of it has to do with airplanes, airports, that kind of thing. Part of it also has to do with glare to surrounding areas. So yeah.
So, the glare thing is, when you look at the purpose of a solar panel is to absorb as much solar energy as possible. And so to have glare means that there's solar energy that that solar module is not able to capture. And so solar module manufacturers have gone to great lengths to make sure that there's no glare. Glare is really, for all intents and purposes, is a non-issue. Back, in the infancy of solar, that would have been the case, but today that's not the case. So I think, and in terms of lights, solar is not like wind. So, and the only light that you're going to see is on a inverter. Then inverters are going to be in the middle of the solar array, and you're never going to see it.
So next question is very similar. How loud does the inverter get in decibels? So I found a study. I don't know where Hand Card Environmental is, but I'm just going to read the summary. And again, I have this stuff, so you have questions, I can certainly send you in the right directions, because there's 17 pages of it, and I just printed off the conclusion. So it says, when this modeling method was applied to the Southern Oak facility, the predicted noise levels were about 40 decibels at the edge of the facility. That's at the fence line, and it dropped to 35 within the appropriate 1,000 feet of the edge of the facility. So it, I'm just going to go to the last one. The predicted noise level accurately matches what was measured. Thus, the modeling method is considered valid. In addition, I'm not going to worry about that. But the noise level predicted using this method are considered very conservative, or worst case scenario, as they were validated to the loudest level measured. So I guess my understanding is I had a chart what 40 and 30 decibels sounded like, and I did not print that off, but it's not much more than a whisper.
Yeah, I think 40 decibels would be like your refrigerator, if I remember.
You are correct.
What's that?
I do sound engineering, you are correct, just a little bit louder.
Okay.
So probably like your deep freezer when it turns on,
Yeah.
it's a little bit louder than your fridge, all around that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when we were at Ranger Power, we were 400 feet away from where the inverter was, and the only thing we could hear was wind. And that's another thing that the solar industry is really, they're listening to you as citizens. You don't want noise. And so they're listening, and we can't say that they're whisper quiet, but you won't be able to, you won't know that you're next to a solar array because of noise.
The next one I like, do you have research that a solar farm in Michigan is profitable? I haven't seen any go bankrupt, so at this point I'm going to say yes, but I don't know yet. Next one, how does commercial solar farm, before we do that one, has the township received any special use applications? And the answer is no. Nothing has come our way. Okay, so much for the easy stuff. So the next section is, township ordinances and the process of that. So you're gonna listen to me carry on a little bit. What I'd like to do though, our zoning administrator, had something scheduled and she was not able to come. So she typed off something she'd like me to read, so I'm just gonna, go through that best I can. The original solar energy ordinance was adopted in 2018 after residents asked to be able to put in solar systems in their home for use. As typical with other municipality ordinances, we found adding a commercial solar action section. We also added a commercial solar energy section along with the resident section. There was an inquiry around that time from a different company contacted by a resident about putting in a solar farm on their property, but nothing came of it. Since that time, other residents that wanted solar systems commented that the special use process took too long and too cumbersome, and then we amended the solar ordinance section to divide the types of residential systems, making the process faster and to get approval. 2 amendments were proposed to the commercial section because Inverter asked us what those sentences meant. We purposed to clarify those sentences. That was not part of the adoption of the board, and they only adopted the residential amendments. They asked the planning commission to look into the commercial section again due to all the questions that came from the other residents. The information meeting was set up by the board to answer residents' questions. That's just tonight. The planning commission followed all zoning and state laws with notices when held in public hearings and on 2018 solar energy ordinance and the 2022 amendments. No notices are sent to residents in a text amendment to the ordinance, as is a wording only. It's not a rezoning of property or districts. The residents that came to the 2018 public hearing all wanted solar energy available to the township. The notice was on the township hall, in the shopper's guide, and on the website. Claims that this ordinance was not adopted are false. The planning commission will take up the subject at its August 16th meeting and will amend this commercial solar section energy section in a reasonable manner to protect the township as much as lawful. We cannot prohibit a legal use. The township cannot answer some of the questions until we have received a special use permit. At that time, the planning commission will review the applications, and this is during the special permit. The township planning commission will review this special use permit according with the standards and guidelines, and will hold a public hearing. The public hearing will be posted at the hall in the shopper's guide, plus notices are mailed to all the residents and the landowners that is in parcels that are anyone within 300 feet of the application parcels. At some point after that hearing and study, the planning commission will send a recommendation to the board for final approval or denial. If a special use application meets all standards, then it must be approved by state law. One resident that has lived, let's see here. The planning commission should be allowed to do their jobs, and there is no reason for a recall of our board, who takes their own extra time to run the township. They are elected by landowners for 4-year terms. They all live in the township and they take it very seriously. There is no reason to recall them, as they have not done anything wrong. Let the normal zoning process proceed. Okay, and yeah, so that's, thank you, Jeannie Vandersloot, zoning administrator of Keene Township. So she again was, she was supposed to be on this panel tonight, but had other plans, so those are her words. So saying that, we're going to go into some of the process to approve or how our zoning administration work, or how our zoning and ordinances work. Okay, so this is kind of a cluster. I'm not overly skilled on PowerPoint, so I kind of cut and pasted the best I could. So this is a bunch of questions asked by a resident. So and I think it says there on top, in red is the answer to the question by the zoning administrator. So, again, she's very skilled at that. I couldn't do half of what she does. So, again, you're gonna have to listen to me read, but I'm gonna start with the first one. My property's not next to proposed solar fields right now. I estimate everything is 250 yards from the property, which does border one of the parcels. This is very close. So the response is, township personnel do not know who signed leases until a property owner has told some of the people. The leased land needs to be near high power lines or substations. Because the zoning ordinance now opens the door for solar farms all over Keene Township, I'm concerned, and these are the questions that I have. Solar energy ordinance was adopted in 2018 because people wanted to put in a residential system. We must provide for legal use if requested. Solar farms can be in the AG and AR zoning districts on 5 or more acres, in the rural residential district if the parcel is over 40. They cannot be placed on LDR, C, or I districts. So the question is, there's some confusion regarding the information. See below. And I'm not going to read that part of it, but the way that it's written, it appears that the solar energy amendment adopted in 2018 is for homeowners, yet the ordinance voted on 2022 appears to accommodate much larger scale solar farms. Is the March 22nd the final ordinance regarding commercial solar energy, or is the Planning Commission doing additional work to expand it further? So her response is, the above paragraph was added to clarify all the questions about solar energy ordinance. Many people thought the March ordinance was the first one. In 2018, the ordinance was primarily for home property use, with small by right systems and large systems, ones that would run a home or a farm. But we also added a solar farm section to protect the township with regulations. That's what our ordinances are, regulations. The amendments in 2022 are also primarily for home property use, farm use, and business use to make the process for system much easier and faster to get a permit. We created a medium-sized system that will be obtained as a zoning permit for most average home sizes. Large systems would be for large homes, farms, businesses that need much larger systems and remain as special use. The only clarifications were made, the existing commercial solar farm section, but were not adopted, and more work will be done with that section. The Planning Commission will work with more language to be added to the commercial solar farm section in the future meeting, which is this August one that we're talking about. So now that I've read the first page, do you want me to keep reading it, or do you want to just look at it? You tell me. The point is that there's lots of points that I feel like there's a conception that we did all this stuff in secrecy and private and stuff. Hey, the township made some mistakes along the way. Our minutes aren't very good. We've had some issues along that way. But as far as the work and the looking that people done, there's nothing shaky going. Nobody's getting kickbacks. It's hilarious, some of the stuff I hear. Saying that, you tell me, you guys want to just read it? You want me to read it? Let me know. Can you make it bigger?
I can attempt to. You want me to read it,
Robert? Can you put it on the
Yeah,
website?
I'm not a very good reader, so.
Sit here and read it.
Why don't you put it on your website?
Well, and that I can too, and like I said, I'll try to get as much of this on there as I can. Like I said, I don't want to. There's like 5 pages of me going on and on and on, and if you want to, I will. But if you'd rather just read it for yourself, the responses, we'll put it. So I tell you what, kind of what I'm going to do is I'll go. So I had some questions. So basically what I did is we took these questions and answered them, and then I just posted them. I think what I'll do is I'll just skip ahead to some of the questions. So can you go to this page here where it just talks about the ordinance question? Yep. Okay. So, these are some of the questions again that I received, try to answer them best I can. So the first question, can a moratorium be put on to place until the planning commission finishes the commercial solar ordinance? So I had some notes on this. So somebody had made a reference to what was going on in Montcalm County. Okay, so I wasn't aware of it. I went and looked. As I understand, in Montcalm Township in Montcalm County, their board did not have a ordinance for, this is wind now, but it's the same. So they did not have an ordinance in place, and they were working on bringing it to the township board. So instead of doing their ordinance, they put a moratorium in place. So that's a different beast than what we have here. In our township, we have an ordinance, and you just can't rescind it. And then I think somewhere along the way that question got answered by Keene on that. There's rules and regulations that we follow. You just can't willy-nilly put a hold on the ordinance and say, well, we're just gonna put it on hold for now and we'll come back to it or whatever. That's just not how the process works, okay? And again, Jeannie can explain it better than I can, but that's kind of the long and short of it. So what is the process to grant variance to the solar ordinance? Examples were given were maximum heights or setbacks. So it's very similar to our, when we have a variance for, let's say somebody wants to build a house, okay? We have 2.5 acres and there's frontage and things. Well, sometimes with the lay of the land, our ordinance doesn't cover every single parcel. So they have the right to come to the zoning board, ZBA, zoning appeals board, and ask for a variance, okay? It would be the same process. So that process, it's a public hearing. Why do you need a variance? Why, here's the rules. Why do we need to bend them for you? It would be the same thing for that when it comes to the solar. I suspect that this company would do it all ahead of time. I don't think it would change midstream, because that's the last thing they want to do is go in there and change stuff halfway through the process. So all that stuff, if there was anything, especially on the commercial side, but I'm also going to say on the residential side too. So we do have ordinances in place for residential too. So you're in a residential neighborhood and you don't want to look out your window and see a bunch of solar panels. So but there's variances that can be made there too. Again, it's the same process. So I hope that's clear enough. If commercial solar comes to the township, is there any plans to rezone the township? Would that allow any type of business to come in? So when we talk about zoning or our ordinances, I guess I know there's another question there, but